Iranian officials have warned that Israel's escalating attacks on Lebanon and ongoing hostilities in Gaza threaten to derail the ongoing ceasefire negotiations with the United States, which continue to drag on. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi suggested on Monday that the mounting Israeli invasion of Lebanon and its strikes on the country, alongside the continued US siege of Iranian ports, constitutes a violation of the ceasefire.
Few states are as synonymous with left-wing politics in the United States as California. On Tuesday, the western state is headed to the polls to vote in primary elections ahead of November's midterms. But a quirk in its primary system has made its governor's race vulnerable to a Republican takeover.
Hundreds of young people in the town of Nanyuki in central Kenya have rallied against plans to set up an Ebola quarantine centre for United States citizens exposed to the virus at Laikipia Air Base nearby. The protests on Monday came 2 days after Kenya's High Court suspended the establishment of the facility and a case filed by the Law Society of Patients, pending a case filed by the Law Society of Kenya and a constitutional watchdog. An international court has ruled that the United Kingdom does not need to pay Rwanda more than £100 million, 134 million, in compensation over a scrapped migrant deportation deal. The Hague's Permanent Court of Financial Claims, brought by Kigali, which had argued that Britain should honour the terms of the controversial asylum plan, which was cancelled by London in 2024.
Anthropic, the AI lab behind Claude, has filed confidentially for an initial public offering. The company said in a blog post Monday. The company, which is valued at close to $1 trillion, submitted a draft registration statement to the US Securities and Exchange Commission for a proposed initial public offering. Anthropic has yet to list the number of shares or set the price. Anthropic said the proposed initial public offering will depend on market conditions and other factors.
Gigascale, the venture firm led by former Meta CTO Mike Schroepfer, announced on Monday that it had raised a $250 million fund to back founders who are rebuilding the physical economy. The new fund will focus on energy, grid infrastructure, and critical minerals, all through the lens of climate tech. By continuing with the overt climate focus, Gigascale is Babaka climate tech wisdom, which has soured on the climate tech thesis. Islamabad. The Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, on Monday directed the Ministry of Interior and the Islamabad Chief Commissioner to provide pending documents for the delimitation of the capital's local government within 3 days, warning that a 10-day deadline had already lapsed. The letter, seen by Dawn, was addressed to the Secretary of the Ministry of Interior and the Islamabad Chief Commissioner. Islamabad. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Monday assured businessmen and industrialists that measures were being taken to make the forthcoming federal budget conducive to industrial growth and production. The government is expected to approve a consolidated national development program of over $3.5 trillion and a macroeconomic framework, an inflation of 8.5%, an inflation of 8.5% for FY 2026-27.
A new AI weather forecasting tool released today by the startup Windborne Systems offers more frequent and accurate predictions on key variables than the world-leading system developed by European governments, thanks to advancements in how sensor readings are fed into deep learning models. Founded by a group of Stanford students in 2019, Windborne began by building a better weather balloon, with the idea of selling weather data. But the arrival of the weather forecasting deep learning models in 2022, the team realized they could capture more value by building their own model as well. SpaceX is warning investors that it may dole out significant equity in future transactions following its upcoming IPO, language that was added amid constant industry gossip that CEO Elon Musk ultimately plans to merge his space and AI company with Tesla. The new language was tucked deep in the risk factors section of SpaceX's first official amendment to its IPO filing, which was made public last month. The company tacked this sentence onto the end of the first paragraph of a risk about how mergers and acquisitions may go sideways.
Huawei has launched the Nova 16 Pro smartphone with a high-end camera setup, a new a large battery and fast wired charging. The Huawei Nova 16 Pro features a 6.84-inch OLED display with 1.07 billion colors and P3 wide color gamut support. The screen offers FHD plus resolution and uses a 1 Hz to 120 Hz LTPO adaptive refresh rate for smoother visuals. Gilgit. 7 people went missing after a tourist jeep on its way to Fairy Meadows in the Diama district of Gilgit-Baltistan fell into a ravine and was swept away in Tatu Nula on Monday. According to the spokesperson for the GB police, the accident occurred at around 3 p.m. on Tatu Raikot Road.
Hungarian Prime Minister Peter Magyar said on Monday his government would launch legal proceedings to dismiss President Tamás Sulyok, an appointee of the previous nationalist administration, if he sticks by his refusal to resign. Magyar's centre-right Tisza party ousted Prime Minister Viktor Orban in an April election and pledged to remove several figures appointed by Orban to key public positions over the past 16 years, including the largely ceremonial head of state.
Cairo, Egypt. On a weekday afternoon in early May, Mohammed Adel boarded the monorail at Mushir Tantawi station and watched Cairo's cityscape scroll by. The 48-year-old sales manager had boarded a train on the Egyptian capital's latest public transport transit line, Cairo's East Nile monorail, to test it. He was satisfied with the overall experience of his brief journey.
India says it will continue engaging with Myanmar after Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with Min Aung Hlaing, the leader of the country's military government, in New Delhi. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri told reporters on Monday that India's policy is not intended to be a commentary on the internal political arrangements in Myanmar, and that New Delhi believes engagement is the best way forward.
British fintech Revolut has quietly begun rolling out its services in India as part of a controlled beta programme ahead of a broader launch, marking a significant milestone in its years-long effort to enter the country's fast-growing digital payments market. Revolut started taking sign-ups for its India app earlier this year, and some users who joined the waitlist have been gaining access to its services over the past few weeks, TechCrunch has learned. The company confirmed the rollout and said a few thousand customers in India are already using the platform.
As its traffic continues to climb, alternative search engine DuckDuckGo is leaning into anti-AI sentiment with the launch of new browser extensions that allow users to set its no AI search experience, noiDuckDuckGo.com, as their default search engine. Once enabled, users will be directed to the company DuckDuckGo's AI-free search page, where there are no AI-assisted answers, no chat prompts, and fewer AI images in the search results, the company claims. The extensions are currently available for Chrome and Firefox users. Meanwhile, people who have switched to the DuckDuckGo web browser already have their AI settings preserved, even if they clear their browser history.
Driverless transport is moving closer to commercial use as NVIDIA expands its Drive Hyperion robotaxi platform through new partnerships with automakers, software firms and ride-hailing companies. The company is working with Foxconn, VinFast, Autobrains, Uber and Human to support the development and deployment of Level 4 autonomous electric vehicles across several regions.
Huawei has introduced the Nova 16 and Nova 16Z in China alongside the Nova 16 Ultra and Nova 16 Pro. The Nova 16Z is the entry-level model in the series, while the Nova 16 sits above it with a more powerful Kirin 910S chipset, a larger 7,000 mAh battery and a 50 mi periscope telephoto camera with up to 100x digital zoom. The Huawei Nova 16 features a 68-inch OLED display with a 2800 by 1280 resolution, a 120 Hz refresh rate, and 2160 Hz PWM dimming. It also comes with IP65 rated protection and a side-mounted fingerprint sensor.
Almost 50% of young adults in 6 major economies think AI romantic companionship will improve human happiness through emotional support in the next decade. The results of a large survey suggested on Monday the percentage dropped progressively across older age categories to just a quarter of people aged 55 and over, according to the research shared exclusively with AFP. Drivers in Russian-controlled Crimea were grappling with gasoline rationing on Monday after Ukrainian drone attacks constricted roads in Ukraine, Reuters witnesses and officials said. More than 4 years since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Russia is facing almost daily Ukrainian attacks on its oil infrastructure, while Western sanctions have made crude exports more costly.
More than 20 police officers responsible for protecting the royal family have been placed on irrestricted duties after some were accused of falling asleep at Windsor Castle and leaving their posts unattended, London police said. Total of 23 officers from the Royalty and Specialist Protection Command have been served with misconduct notices, with 21 of them on restricted duties, following what the force described as an urgent investigation launched last month, the Metropolitan Police said. Hungarian Prime Minister Peter Magyar has promised to amend the constitution to remove the president and other officials appointed under populist former Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Magyar on Monday called President Tamás Sulyok Orban's puppet and said he should resign from the position, but the president has repeatedly rejected the Prime Minister's requests that he stand down.
On a modest bed inside his war-battered home in the Khartoum north neighbourhood of the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, Murtada Mohieddin, a diabetic patient in his early 50s, carefully counts his remaining doses of insulin. His search for medicine has transformed into a harrowing battle, not just to find the treatment he needs to survive his diabetes, but to ensure the medicine is not expired or ruined. Sometimes the insulin is spoiled, Mohieddin tells Al Jazeera, inspecting his limited supply. You wouldn't know if it is ruined or expired. You can check the expiration date, but it could still be damaged from poor storage.
The UK government is considering restrictions that could stop children from talking to strangers on gaming platforms such as Roblox, Fortnite, Discord and Minecraft. The Times reported Sunday the proposal is being discussed as part of a wider review of children's online safety and possible limits on social media use by young people.
A new portable device could make tuberculosis testing much easier and cheaper, especially in areas with limited access to hospitals and laboratories. Researchers say the device can detect TB from a tongue swab within 30 minutes using a test that costs around $4 or roughly $1,100. The World Health Organization, WHO, recommended the test in March, marking the first time it has endorsed a molecular TB test that can be used in community settings without full laboratory infrastructure.
AMD is expanding its 7000 desktop processor lineup with the new Ryzen 7 7700X3D, an 8-core gaming CPU with 3DV cache for the AM5 platform. The processor will be available on July 16 with a suggested launch price of $329.
Amid rising gas load shedding, biogas bags are emerging as an alternative energy solution that converts kitchen waste into usable cooking fuel, offering partial relief to households facing energy shortages. In Karachi, businessman Mohammed Uzair has installed a 2-cubic-metre biogas bag at his home, costing around $135,000.
Huawei has unveiled the Nova 16 series in China with 4 models. The Nova 16 Ultra sits at the top of the lineup and brings a high-end camera setup, a large battery, fast charging support, and Huawei's latest software experience. Huawei Nova 16 Ultra features a 6.84-inch LTPO OLED display with FHD plus resolution and a 1 Hz to 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate. The screen comes with Kunlun glass protection and supports up to 6,000 nits of peak local brightness. Huawei has placed the fingerprint scanner on the right side of the phone, built into the power button.
Islamabad. Having missed the growth target by half a percentage point, recording growth of 3.7 PC this year, the government has set an economic growth target of 4 PC and inflation at 8.2 PC for the next fiscal year. The macroeconomic framework for FY 2026-27 was cleared here on Monday at a meeting of the Annual Plan Coordination Committee, APCC, for formal approval by the National Economic Council, NEC, on June 3.